plant fam! Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Jacqueline. This is part of my jungle. If you are not new here, thank you for coming back. I appreciate you. I just dribbled on myself, I'm not gonna lie. Drinking seltzer, and I made a mess. Not surprising. Anyway, so today I have a quick little Hoya care video for you guys. If you missed it, I've been trying to break down Hoya plant care into smaller bite-sized pieces of information. So I do have, I look like a, I don't want to be, everything is fine. Anyway, I have a Hoya care playlist on my channel that I can link for you that this is gonna go on to if you have some specific questions and you just want a little shorter informational video to figure it out. You don't want to have to sift through all the stuff, or you know, it's just easier in smaller, you know, it's fine. It's just easier this way, okay? Just trust me, please. I'm in a weird mood. Just ignore me. Okay, so we're gonna go through the difference between bright direct light, bright indirect light, all the different things, west, east, north, south facing windows. I can only speak for the northern hemisphere in which I live, so I'm sorry if you're in a different part of the world. I guess just flip it around, right? Is that how that works? Anyway, just as a rule of thumb, Hoyas in general prefer bright indirect light. So what in the heck and bob does that even mean? Essentially, it's just fancy talk for bright light, but not directly underneath the light. I didn't make that sound any. It's bright indirect light is bright light that's indirect. Yes, thank you, Jackie. That was very helpful. What would I do without you? You're welcome. Basically, the difference between direct light and indirect light is exactly what it sounds like. If I have a plant here and this is the sun and the sun is directly on the plant, that would be bright direct light. If I have the plant here and the sun or the light source is over here and this plant is kind of like off to the side, or maybe it's like slightly under a tree, then that's going to be still bright light because the light is still right here, but it's not like directly on it. So I feel like that's easier to explain when it comes to grow lights. Like if this is my grow light and this is my plant, this is bright direct light. If this is my grow light and this is my plant, okay, you can't see. If they're much further away from each other, that's going to be bright indirect light. Do you feel me? Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have a better way of describing it in the comment section below. Okay. So when it comes to Hoyas, they are going to prefer that bright indirect light. So they want the bright light. They just don't want to be roasty toasty directly underneath the light. Now that's not going to be the case for every Hoya, which is why I am making this video, because it really isn't like a general blanket statement. There are some nuances to it. So it depends on the Hoya. If I have a Hoya such as the Hoya Sunrise, for example, we all know that when in bright direct light, this Hoya is going to get sunstressed. So every Hoya that you put in bright direct light will get sunstressed. But that is not to say that the sun stressing is going to be pretty. Sometimes the sun stress looks more like bleaching, and what used to be a nice dark green plant can turn into a really muted color. And maybe you like that, but most people don't, because usually when our plants turn into like a little bit more of a muted green leaning towards yellow, we tend to see that and think that it's unhealthy. Like our brain sees a yellow color on a plant and automatically thinks there's something wrong with it. So even though the plant could be perfectly healthy, it doesn't always necessarily look very good. And this is the case with some of my Hoya, such as my Hoya memoria, or I had a pubic calyx that was in a west-facing window, which I'm gonna get to. So it was getting too much light and the leaves were getting lighter green, and I didn't like the way that it looked. So there are Hoyas that are gonna sunstress and turn red, pink, even like burgundy color, and that to most people is really beautiful. Some people hate it, but for most people who are into Hoya, sunstressing your Hoya is like a big thing. And I can do a separate video on how to do that, but really honestly, you just put it in bright direct light. It takes a while. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a week. It probably won't even happen in a month. But each Hoya is different, and it depends on the environment that you put it in. My sunrise sunstresses very quickly and very easily, as opposed to the Obscura, which is similar to the sunrise. I have a video on that if you guys are confused about the similarities and differences between those two. That one does not sunstress as quickly or as easily. So it's interesting, really. And I can't tell you, people ask me all the time, like, what should I do to sunstress it, or will this one do that? And I'm like, I don't know. You're just gonna have to try it and see what happens. It's all about trial and error. I threw all of my Hoya under a really bright light, and I was like, let's just see what happens. I actually do have a video about that. I can try and find it. It's older, but yeah, I'm just kind of like going through my journey on sunstressing my Hoyas under a grow light and how that went. So I still have that same grow light up in the greenhouse, and I still have lots of Hoyas up there that are gorgeous and sunstressed. So bright direct light will give you sunstress. Bright indirect light is just going to give you a really happy Hoya. They thrive in bright light without being like under harsh light. So I really enjoy putting my Hoyas either into a west or east facing window, because usually south facing windows are going to give you very bright direct light, and then north facing windows are going to be the opposite. So the brightest light you're ever going to get in the northern hemisphere is southern facing light. The least amount of light that you're going to get in the northern hemisphere is northern facing light. So I do not recommend putting your Hoyas in a north facing window unless you can put them directly pressed up against the window, and don't really expect it to grow very quickly or bloom or anything like that. I mean, it can happen. It has happened. I'm not saying that that's impossible, but I just want you guys to have realistic expectations. When you put your Hoyas in a north-facing window, they'll survive. I mean, they're getting light. They can photosynthesize there, but they might not really thrive and grow in that type of lighting situation. And then we have west-facing windows, which is what I have here in front of me. Lots of big, huge west-facing windows, and you're gonna get lots of bright afternoon sun with west-facing windows, because we know the sun rises in due east and sets in sort of the west. So if you are on the east side of this building that I live in, you're gonna get lots of morning light coming in, and if you're on the west side of this building like I am, you're gonna get lots of afternoon light coming in. So morning light is not as intense as afternoon light because it's much lower. The sun is much lower in the sky, so you're not getting that really bright light in the morning. I love morning light. East facing windows are my favorite. I absolutely love rising with the sun in the morning, but that's just me personally. So you're gonna get like medium light, I want to say, in an east facing window as opposed to a west facing window where you're gonna get that bright light. It's just not as bright and roasty toasty and intense as southern facing windows, which honestly I don't recommend putting any of your plants in southern facing windows unless they're cacti and succulents, because like most of them are gonna burn. A lot of your Hoyas might be able to handle it, but oh girl, you're probably gonna be watering them like every day, which is not fun either. So we don't always control which way our windows are facing in our houses or our apartments, so there isn't much that we can do about it, but hopefully that helps you guys understand a little bit more the differences between bright light, direct light, indirect light, and things along those lines. So I would say that southern light is like bright direct light, and western light is more like bright indirect light, but it depends. Because let me tell you, the plants that I have directly in these windows, like in the windows, hanging in them and on shelves, in the windows, they get sun-stressed for sure, but not to the extent that they would get really even like burnt sometimes in south-facing windows. But if I pull them just a few feet back from the west-facing windows, that is no longer the case. So I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Editing Jackie popping in really quick because I just wanted to clarify that bright direct light would still be either west or east facing windows if you are keeping the plant directly in the window, like hanging directly in it or in a shelf that's literally right in the window. But a few feet back from that west or east facing light is going to be bright indirect light. So I just wanted to clarify that. Obviously, west facing light pressed up against the window is going to be even just a little bit stronger than the east facing light, like I said, but still I have had Hoyas get sun-stressed in bright direct east facing light. They're just not getting as much of it. So I wanted to clarify that so that there's no confusion. Okay, back into the video. So here's the thing though. You already know that there's a lot of Hoyas who like to get that bright light to be sun-stressed. I mean, it's called sunstress, so I wouldn't say they necessarily like it. It's literally the plant is under stress. It's trying to protect itself. It's almost like its own form of sunscreen. Some plants actually even are fuzzy for that same purpose. It's like they wear sunscreen to protect themselves from the bright light. But then there's the splashy Hoyas, you guys, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, because if you have a splashy Hoya that has really nice little silver splashes all over the leaves, if you put that in bright direct light, you're going to notice that those leaves, the splash, will actually turn pink in most cases, which is gorgeous. If you've ever had a pubic calyx that was splashy and you put it in bright light, you would know what I'm talking about. You get these gorgeous little pink flecks on the leaves. The silver turns pink when it's stressed. But the downside to that is that putting a splashy Hoya in direct light will actually reduce the amount of splash on the new leaves. So I recommend putting your splashy Hoya actually in a lower light situation, not low light, lower, like a indirect light situation, and they will actually likely get even more splashy. So it's kind of a bit of a conundrum. You know, the pink splash is absolutely gorgeous, but if you leave that Hoya in the direct light for too long, I cannot guarantee that your new growth is going to come in as splashy as the old growth. So you can always let it grow, and once it's done putting out some leaves, because we all know that Hoyas don't just constantly grow, they go through stages of growth for sure. If it's in a downtime where it's not showing any active growth, go on ahead, put it in bright light, let it get pink and cute and splashy. But then if you do notice it starting to become active again, I would remove it from that lighting situation and put it somewhere else. So yeah, but that's just me. That's my personal opinion, and that is all there really is to know about Hoya lighting. They're pretty easygoing, in my opinion, when it comes to what they're going to tolerate. They are really good at adapting to their environment. So as long as you're giving them sufficient light and airflow and just the right amount of water, they're gonna thrive for you. Hoyas are really, really easygoing. One of the reasons why I love them, they are a slower growing plant, so that's something that people don't always love about them, but I can appreciate it because I have a lot of them, and if they grew really fast, we would have a problem, because my philodendrons are exploding in the greenhouse. I cannot wait to show you what's going on in there, but the Hoyas just, they don't do the same. They go through periods of time where they grow and then they take a break. So totally normal. I promise you, you are not doing anything wrong. But if you have done all of the things and you're confused, you don't know why your Hoyas are no longer growing, I have a video for that too. It is in the playlist with the rest of the Hoya care videos, how to get your stubborn Hoyas to grow. So that's it for this video. I hope that it was helpful. I hope I didn't confuse you even more than you already were about lighting. But it's pretty simple when it really comes down to it. Your Hoyas are going to love you if you put them in bright and direct light. They don't need extra humidity. They don't need to be in a cabinet. They don't need to be in a greenhouse. Majority of Hoyas are going to be just fine in your regular home. They don't need any special attention. I promise you that. So if you haven't bought a Hoya yet, you should try one. I'm just saying. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful and just support my channel, you should give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything from me. There's a join button down there if you want to be part of the official plant fam. If not, there's a super thanks button. These are just additional ways for you to support my channel. I appreciate every single one of you who does. I appreciate everybody who doesn't as well. Thank you for being here and for watching this whole entire video. You're kind of amazing. Anyway, I appreciate you for the millionth time, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.